I'm Courtney. We're a family of 5 trying to grow as much of our own food as we can, and we raise chickens. Our kids wanted to name our little backyard farm, so we did. It's called Heart Pine Farms. We all learn a lot very often from failures in the garden. Our first fall planting of parsnip seeds failed to germinate this year, and we'll show you what we think went wrong. With what we learned, we'll show you some tips on getting better germination rates from parsnip seeds and also information you can use to time planting and harvests. Parsnips are a unique, cool season crop that we think are very much worth the wait. If you've never grown parsnips in your garden before, we would highly recommend giving them a try. They're absolutely delicious roasted with carrots, beets, and potatoes, and they also store really well. We're all about preserving summertime harvests, but these fall crops and winter crops like parsnips, they do store really well, but it's nice to eat seasonal vegetables like that are harvested in the wintertime, which parsnips are. They actually taste even better after they've been exposed to a few frosts and freezes. So we've grown parsnips in the past successfully without a hitch, but this past time, not a single seed germinated. And I think it was because of the soil temperature. The optimal soil temperature for parsnips to germinate is 50 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. It was the end of August when I planted these seeds, and shortly after it got really hot, like 90s up to 100, and it was really dry. So even though I tried to keep the soil really moist and even tried shade fabric, it still did not cool the soil down enough. So I think that was the issue. In the past, I've probably just been really lucky to have the soil be the right temperature. Speaking of soil temperature, taking the temperature of your soil is really easy to do, and it's really important, especially like in the spring when you're trying to figure out whether your soil is warm enough to direct sow seeds. And in the fall, like right now, when we're trying to figure out whether the soil is cool enough to plant certain seeds like parsnips. So you can even use a thermometer that you'd use in the kitchen, like a meat thermometer, or in our case, we use a thermopen. It's one of our most favorite gadgets in the kitchen. We use it all the time, but it's pretty much an instant read thermometer, so that's why I really like to use it in the soil too. So this is the parsnip bed. We just planted these last night, and I wanted to come and see what the soil temperature is today after a totally sunny day out here. And I wanted to show you too. I'll move one of these boards away. So it's really windy today and dry, and you can see how the boards help hold the moisture in. So that's why this method is so great for holding soil moisture in when you're trying to germinate seeds, especially like these parsnips that take 3 weeks or more to germinate. Okay, so I will show you how to use this thermopen right here to check the temperature of the soil. So I really want to know what the temperature is kind of right on the surface, because these parsnip seeds are planted a half an inch down. So I'm just gonna put the thermopen in like this, and it's about 70 degrees right now, the soil is, so we're still within our range. 71, 69. I'm curious to see if it goes way down in here to see what the temp is down there. It's warmer. 72, 71. So I'll check it under here too, just to see. 70, 66, 69, 70. So we're right in range for these parsnips. So hopefully it will stay that way. Hopefully temperatures will stay pretty moderate throughout October, and we can hope for some good parsnip germination this time. Parsnips are a semi-hardy cool season crop because once they germinate, they grow best when daytime air temps range from about 40 to 50 degrees. If you go to Weather Underground's website, you can check out the monthly average temps for your area. We replanted our parsnip seeds on September 28th. The variety we're growing is Lancer. We might be able to harvest at the end of January or February here in Zone 7B where the ground doesn't freeze. If not, we'll hope for an early spring harvest. We're in upstate South Carolina, and parsnips should grow well through the next few months in our area. We're hopeful, but of course weather events can happen that are totally out of the ordinary. Parsnips can be overwintered in cold climates by mulching heavily and harvesting in the spring. This time when I plant these seeds, I'm going to use the same method that I used to plant carrots, and that is using boards, which I'm going to show you in just a minute. But you really do get a good germination rate that way. And I'll show you some of our carrots that are growing right now, and you can see how straight these rows are and nearly 100% germination. So here is a bed of carrots that we planted at the same time as the parsnips, and they germinated and grew just fine. The max optimal soil temp for carrots is 85 degrees. We also planted some broccoli at the same time as the parsnips, and the broccoli germinated and is doing just fine also. Again, optimal soil temp max 85 degrees. We also planted beets at the same time, and I think beets maximum optimal soil temp 80 to 85 degrees. Okay, so the reason behind using these boards is first of all, you can mark your rows with them, and that's what we're going to do right here. I'm going to try 4 rows. So we're just marking the rows, and they're going to be nice and straight. And that helps us maximize our space in our 4x8 bed here. Okay, and now I can space out the seeds just right. I'm going to plant these seeds 6 inches apart because we want to give the parsnips plenty of space to get big enough without being crowded. So I think 4 to 6 inches is pretty good. I'm going to do 6 inches here. One of the other reasons why we use the board method to plant seeds is that the boards help the soil hold moisture in. So when you water, the water seeps underneath the boards, and the boards help the soil hold that moisture in. So we're going to have seeds that are a ½ inch deep, and the soil, when it dries out, that happens pretty quickly unless it rains or unless you're watering at least once a day. And these parsnip seeds, they could take 3 weeks to germinate, so that's a lot of time having to try to keep this soil moist. So the boards help out with that situation. Now, if there is a really heavy rain, the boards also help hold the seeds in, because, you know, if you get a really heavy rain, the soil puddles up, the seeds go everywhere. Because these seeds right here, they're small and they're like papery seeds. So they would easily float away if we had a heavy rain. So these boards help them stay in place. So I'm just gonna go through here, and I'm just gonna make a little hole every 6 inches or so. And then I'm gonna drop a couple of seeds in there. I can always thin them out just in case they both germinate. But because parsnips are proving to be a little bit tricky right now, I'm going to put 2 seeds lightly, so they have about a ½ inch of soil on top. We'll just keep checking underneath the boards for the next few weeks, and we're going to watch for germination. When germination happens, then it's time to take the boards right off because the seedlings need sunlight. It's been a week since we planted our parsnip seeds, so we decided to move the boards aside and check for germination. So we see a few little seedlings coming up here. You can see those tiny little baby seedlings there. But since it's only been a week, it's hard to tell whether these are actually parsnip seedlings or weeds, because parsnips can take at least 3 weeks to germinate. So we're just going to be patient. Here's another parsnips update. So it's been 13 days and we decided to move the boards back. We have them propped up like this on the sides of the raised beds to give them some space because we've noticed that there actually really are parsnip seedlings growing right now. So we still want to give them some shade because some of the seedlings still need to work on germinating, but if you look closely, those little tiny seedlings right there are not parsnips, they're weeds. But on the other hand, these right here are parsnip seedlings. And there are several coming up right now, which is very exciting. There's another one right there. And that one right there. It's another little one. And going down the row, you can see some other little ones right there. But there are still some working on germination. So we're going to leave these boards here for a while until we see a more complete row of seedlings here. This row looks like still just some little weed seedlings there, but the boards are still providing some good shade here, but it's not really hot. The high temperature is in the upper 60s, around 70, so it's not worried about the heat. We're just going to keep the soil moist, which the boards, even though they're propped up, still help with that. Here's a quick update on the parsnips. It's been 3.5 weeks and we have 3 really good solid rows of parsnips growing, which have germinated 100%, and we still have a 4th row where there are probably a dozen of them that still have to germinate. So I've been leaving these boards out because it's going to be 75 to 80 this week, and I just want to provide some shade, hoping that those last seeds will germinate. So we actually had our very first hard frost. Actually, the temperature went down to 29.5, which is extremely early for that to be happening for us. So we covered up these tiny parsnip seedlings with some frost fabric and they came out just fine. So imagine that, 29.5 degrees, and now we're back up into the 80s. So these boards, they help hold up the frost blanket when we have to cover them if it gets really cold for these fragile little seedlings. And they actually provide shade to help keep the soil moist and cool, because I'm just hoping that the rest of these seeds in this final row will still germinate. We hope this video will give you some ideas about when and how to plant parsnips in your garden. We're hoping our fall parsnip planting will grow well through fall and sweeten for a nice winter harvest, and we'll see what happens. Of course, we'll update you. Maybe we'll end up with an early spring harvest. Parsnips are definitely worth the wait.